They took a germ of an idea and stuck with it, and did the very careful groundwork that resulted in the Alberta Heritage Foundation for Medical Research, which Mike Smith has characterized as a national treasure, a treasure for all Canadians and indeed people throughout the world. So I think it's that recognition that they started this unique organization going, the development of a brain trust which is of benefit to all mankind. That's what they're being recognized for.
Peter Lougheed began his 14 years as Premier of Alberta in 1971. By 1976, the wealth generated by the province's natural resources had presented his government with both a challenge and an opportunity.
It was a complex question of what we did with setting up the Heritage Fund, which was putting aside 1/3 of the revenues that we were getting from royalties for oil and natural gas. That was something we could see. We wanted a savings fund, and the public were very supportive of it in 1976. But then what to do with it, having established it. And we talked a lot about various alternatives, and it seemed to us in the cabinet that it would be wise to set up an endowment for research, because as a resource-producing area, we wanted a balance by way of diversification, a knowledge-based economy.
The question was how to do it. For answers, they turned to the province's most experienced medical administrator, Dr. Jack Bradley.
For us, he was the perfect advisor for what was a very important decision by a group of people who, as I say, were not very technical, not very scientific, and certainly not very much inclined to research. We needed Dr. Bradley. He was an essential part of the process.
Jack was the, if you like, the doer. He was the one that beavered away vigorously, used all the skills that he developed in a lifetime in medicine and in medical administration to probe the best across the world to find out how you did this. What was the best way to set this up? And he went all over the place and talked to all sorts of people in developing ideas and in developing the model of the foundation. So that Jack, if you like, laid the blueprint out. He was the draftsperson for those early days of the foundation.
From the beginning, the job was about far more than research and organizational development. Dr. Bradley had to be a diplomat as well, building relationships with universities and the research community.
I remember at one time I had about 5, what I would call big wheels. And you got to them, you spoke with them, and they were all very happy to cooperate. And part of this, of course, was Peter Lougheed. He was willing to, at that time, to use money. And somehow or other we convinced him that research in medicine was a good idea.
We fit, and we had good chemistry, and we traveled a lot together. We went to Edinburgh, and we went to Boston, and we went to other areas together, and it was a busy time for me, but at the same time I wanted to do it myself and not just have it done by a minister. And so we worked on it together, and he was just very effective to work with.
Never any interference from Peter, for instance. My work was carry on. I wanted to go anywhere, go. Not why. It was pretty fertile field at that time. And you see what it's done now. It's just boomed.
The Alberta Heritage Foundation for Medical Research was never a standard government program. Mr. Lougheed and Dr. Bradley knew that successful medical research needs long-term commitment, so the foundation was designed to be independent of changes in government policy.
And that's why we went the endowment route rather than the annual allotment of funds. And the endowment route started that. And then the structure was important because we brought together a group of trustees of the foundation who were basically lay people, but I knew every one of them, and they were very, very bright, and the presidents of the 2 universities. and we wanted them to very much be at arm's length. I tell the story that after the meeting with them the first time for breakfast, and I'm a fairly fast breakfast eater, I put down my knife and fork and I said, have a good day, I'll see you in 7 years. Now, I obviously saw each of them individually, but I never saw them as a group for 7 years.
And they saw this as being a sustained long-term investment in research, that the idea that it was there for the long term would attract the best researchers to Alberta. And that, in point of fact, is what has happened. We've not only trained our own and sent them away for training elsewhere and brought them back, but we've been able to attract the brightest and best from around the world. And of course, their knowledge doesn't stop at the Alberta border. What they do flows across the world for the benefit of mankind.
Since the establishment of the foundation in 1980, Alberta's financial investment has more than tripled. But what that investment has produced in terms of knowledge created and lives improved is incalculable.
I think Mr. Lougheed was the visionary and the man who drove the agenda. Basically, it was his unswerving dedication, if you like, to the cause of creating this vehicle that saw it go through the vicissitudes, if you like, of developing a program, moving it through government, enlisting the aid of people throughout the world in creating it. It was that sort of tenacity, if you like, and vision that carried it forward. And of course, he was very ably assisted by Jack.
Well, it's an honor to me personally, obviously. I value it very highly, but perhaps more than anything, I value the fact that I'm involved with Dr. Bradley and I'm involved in the concept of the foundation, because so many people have worked very hard on this foundation, and so this award is, I take it and receive it on the basis of not just myself and Dr. Bradley, but a multitude of people.